Hello world, my name is Nick and this is part 1 of my Java programming tutorial. So this tutorial is meant for beginners, so if you have never coded before, or maybe just done a little bit of code here and there, this is meant for you. And ideally by the end of this, you should be doing some pretty cool stuff. So why Java? Why would you want to learn Java? What's the point of it? There are tons of programming languages out there, but very few are as widespread as Java. You see Java everywhere, whether you know it or not. If you have an Android phone, essentially everything on your phone has been programmed in Java. And it's also a very powerful language. You can do a lot with it very easily compared to most languages. And it's a pretty good one for beginners to learn, just because if you wanted to get a job in software engineering knowing only one language, Java would probably be the best one for you to know. So what we are going to do today is we are going to set up your computer so you can start programming in Java. So to do that, we're going to need two things. The first one is we are going to need something called the Java JDK. So I do not know the website where you get it, but the way I always get to it is I just Google Java JDK. And it's this one right here. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's oracle.com/technetwork/java/java.se/downloads, but you can just click on the link. So when we go over here, we get to this wonderful looking website. So this is Oracle's website. It's the company that essentially owns Java. So what you want to do is you have a few options here. It gives you an option for NetBeans with JDK8, this thing up here, the Java platform JDK8U45. Don't worry about any of that. The numbers on your screen might be different because this is the current version that's out, and that seems to change pretty often. So don't really worry about it. Main thing you have to know is what you want is the JDK. So we're going to come down here and click on download. Now it's going to take you to this screen where you can pick what your system is. So on the left it's the operating system, and on the right it's the number of bits your processor is. So if you have a 64-bit processor, you're going to want to pick one that ends in x64. If you have a 32-bit processor, you're going to want to pick the one that ends in x86. Why is it 86 and not 32? I actually don't know. I'm sure there's a very good reason, and I'm kind of curious now. But anyway, so we're going to click on Accept License Agreement, and then we're going to click on the download we want. So I'm on Mac, so I'm going to select the Mac OS X x64 download, and the download starts. And it's a pretty big download. It's 221 megabytes, so that might take a little bit. But I already have it installed, so I'm not going to wait for it to actually finish. But once it finishes installing, there should be a link for you to click on in your downloads folder. And it should guide you through the installation. You can essentially just keep on clicking next and install it wherever it wants you to install it. And that won't really be anything too complicated for you. So this is, should probably mention what this actually is, what we're downloading. So the Java JDK, that stands for Java Development Kit. And what that means is it's essentially everything you need to develop for Java. So that includes the things you need to run programs with Java. That includes something called the Java Virtual Machine, which I'll get into a little bit later. And it's just everything that you need for your computer to make sense of the Java code that you're going to be typing. So that's the first thing we need. The second thing we need is something called Eclipse. So Eclipse is an IDE. So that stands for Integrated Development Environment. So When you write code, you're essentially just writing text, and then your computer knows how to interpret that, and you have a program because your computer can read that text that you wrote and turn it into useful stuff. So you could do that in something like Notepad on Windows or TextEdit on Mac or gedit on Linux or any text editor really. But that's kind of annoying because then you just have a big page of white background, plain black text, and you have to type everything out yourself, and it doesn't really do much to help you out when you're programming. So that's where integrated development environments come in. So the one we're going to download today is called Eclipse. You can get it at eclipse.org. It is free, which is great. You can also download it for any platform, for Linux, any distribution, I'm pretty sure, Mac, Windows, and it's very popular. It's pretty much the industry standard when it comes to Java development. There are a few others that some people might prefer, but the general consensus is that Eclipse is a very, very good IDE. So that's why we're going to use it. So your options up here, when you go to the Eclipse website and click on download, your options are going to be, if you're on a Mac, it'll say Mac OS X 32-bit, 64-bit. And then if you're not, it'll probably say something else. So if you're on Windows, this will say Windows 32-bit, Windows 64-bit. And then if you're on Linux, it's probably going to say Linux 32-bit, Linux 64-bit. So you go to whichever one of these operating systems you own. Your browser should be able to pick it up for you automatically, but if it doesn't, you just go right here and pick it. And we want to download this for our operating system. So mine is a 64-bit Mac, so I'm going to click on this. And here it has all these weird mirrors and stuff you can get it from. There's going to be a link right up here. You just want to click on that link and the download begins, just like that. So I also have Eclipse already installed, so I'm not going to go through the whole installation process, partially because I don't want to uninstall it then reinstall it, and also because it's very straightforward. It'll be a little different what it looks like based on whether you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux, but it's a very, very straightforward process. You just follow the instructions it gives you, and at the end of that you should also have Eclipse installed. So after you have both of those installed, next thing you want to do is you want to open Eclipse. So let's go to wherever we installed Eclipse. If you're on a Mac, you can just click on the magnifying glass and do a little search thing. If you're on Windows 8, you can also just search for it by name. But in either case, when we click on it to launch it, we get this. We get this little prompt here telling us to select a workspace. So the workspace is going to be where we keep all of our files, and this is somewhere that you want to sort of just set aside for your Java programming, because you don't really want your Java programming files like in the same folder as your Excel spreadsheets from your work, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that. So what we're going to do is pick anywhere that you want. By default, it goes to your Documents folder, but if you don't like that, what you can do is sort of just make your own folder. So you make one on the desktop and call it, that's not how you name a folder. So let's call it Java Programming, and now let's change that to our workspace. So Java Programming. So this is just the folder where all the files we make in Eclipse and all that, this is where they're all going to be. So you can check here, use this as the default and do not ask again. I would not do that if I were you. And the reason why is because if you ever want to change your workspace, it's kind of annoying. And it will remember this default, so next time Eclipse boots up, you can just press OK on this screen. So we're going to press OK. And now Eclipse begins to load. And load. and load. And when it's all done, this is a screen you should get. So just to make sure everything's working, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new Java project. So we go to File, New, and then Java Project. So let's call our project Hello World. You can give it any name you'd like. And use the default location, that's fine. The number you have here next to your execution environment might vary depending on which version of the Java JDK you downloaded. But you can pretty much leave everything here as the default. And then, yeah, this is all fine. So go ahead and finish. And, well, this welcome thing kind of just stays there in the way. So if we exit out of that, here's our project. It's called Hello World. So we are going to actually get to putting stuff in this project in the next video. But if you got it up to here, looks like your installation is probably fine. If you got an error code when trying to open up Eclipse, you can either post it in the comments and I'll try to get to it, or if you Google it, Eclipse is so popular that pretty much every error code ever has probably been asked 1,000 times before. So you should be able to find a solution. But if not, just post in the comments and I will try to work with you on it. So there you go. Now you are ready to begin programming in Java.